Okay,
We're good.
so first is tongue. Tongue's right here. Okay, hard palate, it's the roof of the mouth that's hardened. Clicks. Soft palate, it's right below it. Okay, it's soft there. In behind it's the nasopharynx. How we get into that is we go down the glottis here, which is kind of disappeared on us a little bit here. I'll have to pop it back out. There it is. Okay, so we go into the glottis. We take the probe and we'll spin it around and then come back up inside that. Now I'm in the nasopharynx. Okay, so the glottis oftentimes will tuck into the nasopharynx. So if you push down, you can find it. This is the epiglottis. Remember, the epiglottis is epi means top. So when I go inside that, I'm in the glottis itself. Okay. Next is larynx. So this is your larynx. This is where your vocal cords are. That's why laryngitis makes you to where you can't speak well. We don't do thyroid, so we can skip thyroid. 9 is trachea. And trachea is this windpipe right here. Okay. You can see that it sort of kind of makes a little rigid noise. Okay, then we have heart, which is right here. Okay, and a pericardium is what surrounds the heart. So it's this tissue here. Okay, it's what inflammates. That's what kind of contains that fluid and makes the congestive heart failure occur. Cranial vena cava. So cranial vena cava would be this right here. And what this is where all the jugulars drain to. So it's going to the heart. All right, so veins run to the heart, arteries run away from the heart. All right, so cranial vena cava is here. That means caudal vena cava will be below the heart. Caudal means tail. So that's the caudal vena cava. That's the cranial vena cava. Both of them are running to the heart. So right atrium is next. We're going to open up the heart. It's the pig's right, so that'd be the right atrium. Then the right ventricle is just posterior to that, so that'd be the right ventricle. It's this chamber. And then we have the pulmonary artery. So we're going to say pulmonary artery or pulmonary trunk. Either one of those is okay. And we're going to look right here for pulmonary trunk. So we'll count that as the pulmonary artery. Okay. Lungs, so here are your lungs right there. And then we have the pulmonary vein. Now the pulmonary vein is what comes from the heart in. And we will have to clean it up just a little bit. Okay. So we'll just take our knife and sort of clean this out right here. We're going to trim this pericardium back so we can see. There's going to be a vein that comes in from this lung right here into the heart. Okay, so let me see if I can find it here for us. All right, can you see that right there? See that vein coming in?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pulmonary vein. Left atrium, and let's see, left atrium, left ventricle. So left atrium up top, left ventricle at the bottom. Remember, pig's left. So the aorta inside the heart, what you'll do is open up this and you'll follow it all the way back through this left ventricle. And you see how that comes into the aortic arch right there? Mm-hmm. Or it's actually in the left atrium. So that's the aorta inside the heart right there. And that means this is the aortic arch right there. And see, my probe was just inside of that. Okay, so that's aortic arch. Aorta outside the body, you can go anywhere in the pig for that. So aortic arch is okay. Or you can do the thoracic aorta, which we're going to mention here in a minute anyway. And what I do is I just pull all these organs to the side and I find this big tube right against the back, and that's a thoracic aorta. See, it's in the thorax. Remember, the thorax is separated by the diaphragm and the neck. So that'd be the thoracic aorta, or just aorta outside the heart. Coronary arteries. Coronary arteries run across the heart like this. A heart attack is actually a blockage in one of these arteries. Okay, so you might have heard of a massive coronary event. That is a heart attack. And what happens is these get blockages in them. When they block, they can't supply this heart, this muscle, with oxygen, so it stops beating. That's why heart attacks are deadly. Carotid artery. Now, carotid, or it's spelled carotid, but we say carotid, it's in the neck. It's easily confused with coronary. Think massive coronary event. That's the way you can remember that. Carotid artery is right next to what we say proximal to the trachea right here. So that's a carotid artery right there, that one right there. The next one's internal jugular vein. So we're just going to step out one, and that's the internal jugular vein. Then when we step out another one, we get the external jugular vein. Now it's ruptured right here, but it's still right here. On the other side, we can see it better. Carotid artery, internal jugular, external jugular. All right. Thoracic aorta, we've already done, but there it is. Then we have the esophagus. Now the esophagus is found by finding two tubes. All right, so I always find this caudal vena cava first. Then I'll reach and I'll rake them up. And I've got two tubes here. You see, I've got one here. That's the caudal vena cava. Then the other one, the one that's sort of to the left and a little bit closer to the back, that's the esophagus. Is the esophageal sphincter next? It is. So when you follow it down, you can find where it enters the stomach, and it'll go through the diaphragm. And if you put your finger right here, you'll notice that that's a little firmer right there. That's the esophageal sphincter. So it's a muscle that holds the stomach intact. See, diaphragm. Diaphragm's what separates the thorax from the abdomen, so it's right here. Stomach's this pouch right here. Liver's right here. Gallbladder, back side of the liver to the right, there's a little pouch, a green pouch. That's it, that's the gallbladder. Follow it down, and you'll see a little tube where it dumps into the stomach. That's a common bile duct. Okay, that's how bile gets into the stomach, which is a digestive enzyme. Duodenum or duodenum, depending on how you want to pronounce that, is the very top portion of the small intestine. So how I find it is I find the stomach and I find this hard nodule. This hard nodule is the pyloric sphincter. Right below it, this first loop right there, that's the duodenum or duodenum. It's the very tip top of the small intestines. Small intestines are all right here. So those are all small intestines. Mesentery is the material that when we pull them apart, they have this webbing in them. And that's capillaries, that's arteries and veins, and that's how we get absorption of our food into our bloodstream. So as it's traveling through these small intestines, we're having diffusion occur, and these molecules are diffusing into the bloodstream. Large intestine is this right here, okay? And then cecum is next. So cecum is a dead end. So when we find the large intestine, we can find this little pouch, it's a dead end, and that's the cecum, and that's for additional absorption. Colon, we find the large intestine, we follow it all the way back to where it starts to leave the body. That would be the colon right there. Okay, it's descending colon. Spleen is right here. We find the stomach, and we find this like tongue-like organ flipped off to the side. That's a spleen. All right. Pancreas. Now, pancreas, what we do is we pull the stomach back, and we sort of move this around in here. And what we find is we find this sort of fatty-looking organ right here, and that's the pancreas.
Sorry, I want to see this as well.
Sure, that's fine. Cool. So that's a pancreas right there. Now, the kidneys. How to find the kidneys. If you think about where your kidneys are in your back, you can follow these, use these two fingers and follow them up, and you'll find a kidney on each side. There's a kidney, and here's a kidney. Now, when we find the kidneys, we're going to need to find the ureter or ureter. Okay, so we'll clean this up by using the back of the knife here and just sort of move some stuff around. I nicked your colon there, but that's okay. All right, we can find this tube coming from the kidney into the bladder. That's a ureter or ureter, depending on how you pronounce that. The bladder is this right here. That inner portion is the bladder. Urogenital opening. So let's see what we have here. We have a male, so the urogenital opening will be somewhere through here. Here we are, right there. That's the urogenital opening right there. That would be where the penis is. Umbilical vein. Umbilical vein attaches to the liver, so it's right here. It's umbilical vein. Now the renal artery and renal vein are the last two. Okay, so when we do this, we're sort of cleaning this off. Back of the knife kind of being real gentle here. And you can see one side sometimes it's better than the other. Okay, let's see here. There we are. They're right down in there. Okay, so we've got a renal artery and a renal vein. So the renal artery is right there and the renal vein's right there. Okay, they're really small, but they're right there and right there. Okay.